Today's show is sponsored by a former guest, the FinTech Group, and their solution for cannabis online companies and dispensaries to accept cashless payments. If you own a cannabis dispensary or a cannabis online business, you know that banking laws make it impossible for you to accept any form of payment other than cash. The FinTech Group finally provides an option that was previously not available. To learn more, go to fintechmerchantaccounts.com/marijuana-dispensaries or listen to Raising Cannabis Capital, episode 55.
I mean, if you go back to the early days, boy, it was really slim pickings for entrepreneurs. And boy, it's really changed. Now there's multiple layers of filters. We have a selection committee made up of members that really puts a lot of energy in to evaluate companies. And then we also have really big companies that come now and present as well. So it's not just startups and companies in their seed or A rounds.
From MJBulls Media, it's the Raising Cannabis Capital Show. I'm Dan Humiston, and on today's show, we get a behind-the-scenes look at the organization that has helped take our industry to another level by single-handedly connecting the most cannabis companies with the most cannabis investors. Today on Raising Cannabis Capital, we are joined by Troy Dayton, the co-founder of the ArcView Group. Troy, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Dan.
Well, for those that don't know Troy, he is one of the true leaders of the cannabis movement. Let me just give you guys a couple of his career highlights, just to give you a sense of his accomplishments. He's a co-founder of Students for Sensible Drug Policy, founding member of the National Cannabis Industry Association, and recently was elected to the board of the Marijuana Policy Project. So his fingerprints are all over this industry's infrastructure. And I got to say, if it wasn't for guys like Troy, I know I wouldn't be here. So Troy, thank you for all that you've done and you continue to do to move this industry forward.
My pleasure. It's been quite the road.
I think we first met, I was thinking about this, I think it was back in 2014 at the NCIA's first trade show in Denver. I think that's when we first met.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got to know you a little bit better with ARC when we became a member. That's kind of what we're going to talk about today. So without further ado, let's just jump in and talk about ArcView for a little bit. If I remember correctly, at one of the ArcView meetings, I cornered you and I said, well, tell me the story. How did you guys get started? And if I remember correctly, you said that you and it was Steve D'Angelo, you realized that the industry needed sort of a bridge between cannabis entrepreneurs and investment community. Did I remember it correctly?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, there's that, but there's this other piece to it, which was that we both wanted to see cannabis prohibition and saw business and self-interest to a large degree as a big motivator to how we might change the game politically, right? Because if people were making money and you've got business interests, the pool of money that people put towards causes they just care about changes when the money that they're making on these things grows, right? The opportunity to build businesses. And so the kind of joke along the way was the subtle reason we were doing it was really to just get people who don't care about legalization to care about legalization by dangling a carrot of money in front of them, right? And then lo and behold, of course, we get bit by it. I get bit by it. I love the whole entrepreneurial thing. I wind up, over the years, we started in 2010.
Oh
so, it was really the only people in the business doing what we were doing then were people who were diehards because it was a terrible business decision in 2010.
Yeah, I'd say, yeah. No, it's a great one. And I'm looking at on your website. Since you guys started, ArcView has helped over 160 cannabis companies raise over $150 million, which is, just a true testament for the ArcView team. And what do you have, 600 accredited investors? I mean, that's just.
Yeah, the numbers are actually way better than what you're reading on there. It's actually 212 companies and over $160 million that we know of, right? There's a lot more that we just don't know about because people do deals they don't necessarily tell us about. So we assume we're probably about 100 million off.
Then you're just talking about the first deal. What about the second and third? And that's the stuff you don't even know about.
Exactly. Yeah, we don't even count that. Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh. So your network.
Yeah, so we've had companies like Ease and Tokyo Smoke and Ebu and Harborside and MJ Freeway and MedMen and M. Hardeen, on down the list, and Work, Front Range Bio. I mean,
you're in the billions.
You go down the list.
You're into the billions.
There's just tons of companies who've now exited or are raising at much larger things. So it's great. We're actually just talking about putting together a little video showing these companies with $300 million valuations or big, massive exits, and showing them on stage when they were raising at $5 and $10 million valuations.
Well, you just got everybody's attention right now. So let's jump into it. For a cannabis entrepreneur, how do you help them raise money?
Yeah, so we have a big group of investors. I mean, certainly our membership is 600, but our network is much larger than that of investors. And these are investors that are, some of them are angel investors looking to place $50, $100, $200, $500,000 into a deal. And then you've got people that are venture funds or big Fortune 500 companies or big family offices, people that are writing multi-million-dollar checks as well. And then also, it's not just the raising capital, it's also a very curated invitation-only kind of a situation. So what you wind up with is also a lot of people that can really help a business succeed beyond that. I mean, when you raise money, the next thing you need is people to hire, and you need advisors, and you need this, and you need that. And this is sort of the most concentrated group of key players that ever assembles for the cannabis sector. And we do it about 5 times a year. But then we also have an online platform where people can interact in between the events to be able to look at deals, collaborate on deals. We're really helping both sides of that equation come together and do business.
Yeah, and I know in addition to that, you give people the mentors to help them prepare their pitch, and there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff so that everyone's very polished by the time they're up on stage giving their pitches.
Exactly. It wasn't always like that, however. I mean, if you go back to the early days, boy, it was really slim pickings for entrepreneurs. And boy, it's really changed. Now there's multiple layers of filters. We have a selection committee made up of members that really puts a lot of energy in to evaluate companies. And then we also have really big companies that come now and present as well. So it's not just startups and companies in their seed or A rounds like it has been historically in the last year or so as the industry has matured. Canopy Growth, for example, is an annual sponsor of our events, right? Okay. And they're, of course, not there trying to raise money. They're there looking to be more connected in the U.S. and look at companies that they could potentially acquire and those kinds of things. And, companies like Flowcana, Mike Steinmetz is going to be our keynote at our upcoming Chicago event, which is very exciting because Illinois, of course, just legalized cannabis. And this is going to be the first event to happen there, in July, right after it just got signed a couple days ago. So,
man, good timing. That works out perfect for you guys because you had to schedule that well in advance. Well, let's talk about
we had some insight with pieces. I work on that side of it too. So.
That's true. You always have the insider information. Plus, with a 600 investor network, I'm sure you're finger on the pulse of the industry. I want to take a quick break to thank all of our Raising Cannabis Capital listeners and to remind you that you can support the show by subscribing to MJBulls Premium. It's only $4.99 per month, and you gain access to all previous Raising Cannabis Capital episodes, as well as all other MJBulls produced podcasts and exclusive content, including companies' investor pitch decks. Go to MJBulls.com and enter promo code RAISING to get your first month free. Talking about those 600 members or 600 plus members, if somebody were listening right now, I know you have to be an accredited investor in order to become a member. Mm-hmm. Tell us more about the membership and how you help members find the right investment.
The way that so much different industries all wrapped up in the cannabis industry. So knowing one little sector doesn't really make you an expert on all the other sectors. You've got to have a peer group to be able to look at deals, because looking at a few deals that get sent to you because of your own networks and looking at them basically with yourself and somebody who says they're the best grower in the world is not going to get you the best outcomes. You've got to build a network of other people to be able to find deals, evaluate deals, and then invest together in deals. And then most importantly, help those companies succeed once you've invested in them. that's the value of being a member. And what we do is, well, one, it's through the platform and through the events. And so a lot of it happens organically through there. But also every member gets an account manager who helps them get connected to the people that are going to either help them develop their investment thesis, or if they already have an investment thesis, connect them to the companies and the peers that can help them achieve those goals.
I just know whenever I went to the events, you leave there really fired up. Like even if you didn't see something that you liked, you left with with at least one idea. You were super motivated because you're around a lot of really energetic, motivated people, and it's a really, really inspiring environment to be in. Well, jump forward. You talked about your 4 events, and what's next? What's on the plate for ArcView over the next, say, 12 to 18 months?
Well, one thing just happened last week, which is that we released our 7th edition of our annual market report. We actually changed the name from the State of Legal Marijuana Markets to the State of Legal Cannabis Markets, showing the evolution of the industry. It's our most ambitious report ever. Highly recommend going to arcviewmarketresearch.com to take a look at that. And then going forward, we've got a big event coming up in New York in October. We are actually right now co-hosting an event in Hong Kong. Some really exciting things happening internationally. And then also a lot of plans to expand a lot of our asset management, because investors are getting interested, and they're not necessarily people that want to go and look at their own deals. They kind of want somebody to manage their resources to be able to put into that. And so that's part of our plan going forward.
Well, you certainly have experience. You've seen enough companies, that's for sure. We've been speaking with Troy Dayton from the ArcView Group, and we have all of his contact information on the MJBulls website. Troy, we could go on for a long time. I'm sorry we have to cut this one short, but thank you for being on the show. And again, thank you for everything you've done. Like I said at the beginning, I mean, I wouldn't be here, my family wouldn't be in this industry if it were not for efforts like what you've done. And we really appreciate it. Keep it up.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to doing more stuff with you guys.
Thanks for listening to Raising Cannabis Capital. To learn more about today's guest or to become a guest, visit our website at MJBulls.com. Today's show was produced by MJBulls Media, with original music produced in part by Jamie Humiston. I'm Dan Humiston, and you've been listening to the Raising Cannabis Capital podcast.